Up 4, ALEKS help. Okay, let's go to ALEKS. I really recommend you trying to do these specific problems with my video, and I'm trying to show you the topics so you can see which topics. So let's go to the first topic of reading a point in the coordinate plane. Okay, so for this one here, it's just reminding you that you list the x-axis, which is, of course, this here. The x-axis is the horizontal axis, and the y-axis, sorry, I'm having a couple technical issues, and the y-axis is the vertical axis. So if you see, this one says Denver. So when I go to the x-axis, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the left. Left is negative. And then 4 positive. And so on this graph here, Denver is going to be -8, +4. And in parentheses, you would put -8, comma, +4. Okay, next one, finding a solution to a linear equation in 2 variables. Okay, it says find an ordered pair x, y. That's the solution to each equation. Okay, so on this particular one, it's not looking for one particular solution. It's looking for anything. So you can literally put in any number for x or for y and then solve out for y. In this example, they say, you know what, 0 is the easiest number to put in. Let's put in 0 so it'll just make it really simple. So when I put in 0 for y, then 6 times 0 is 0. So now I just have -x is 2. So if -x is 2, +x is -2. And then that's a solution. But you can choose any number you want. You put it in for x, or you put it in for y, and then you solve out the equation for the other variable. All right. Plotting a point in the coordinate plane. So this is very similar to what we just talked about, plotting a point, 0, 5. Remember, the first number is the x, which is your horizontal axis. The second number is your y, which is your vertical axis. So the horizontal axis, let me draw it out for you here. I always kind of do this. I say, okay, this is the horizontal axis, so it's negative, positive. And then the vertical axis, negative, positive. So that's my x and that's my y. My x-axis for 0, well, I'm going nowhere. So on the x-axis, you literally are going to stay right here. But I'm going to go up 5, so I'm not going to stay at that point. Instead, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is 0, 5, which you can see here is 0, 0. And I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Write an equation of a given line. Writing the equation of a given line, the y-intercept, and another point. Okay, so this one you're given y-intercept and another point. So so basically I want the equation for this line. I'm going to do it the easiest way that I'm going to see possible. And for this one, as you can see, the equation we're looking for is y equals mx plus b. And it tells you right here, m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So the first thing I'm going to do is, if you notice, the y-intercept is where this line crosses the y-axis, so that's at 4. So that b is going to be 4, right there. Then we're going to just choose any other point. Make sure you choose a point that goes perfectly through it. Like if you chose something, around here, you can see it's not perfectly through the lines. So the first one is 5, 7, and that one, the line goes perfectly through that. So all we're going to do is we're going to find the slope. And in order to find the slope, we're going to find out how much from 0, 4 that it goes up and over. Now remember, up or down and over, either way, up or down. And so the way I always do this is, see, it's rise over run. So if I count it, I'm just going to go ahead and mark it up, and then I'll scroll down. So if I count this here, this is what I do, is I go up and down, the positive, negative, over right and left, positive, negative. So this is going to be up and down. This would be right and left. All right, so from here, I'm going up 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be up 3. And then I'm going to go to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be to the right 5. Both of them are positive, so the slope is 3 over 5. Now we know that the b, that's my y-intercept, is 4. And remember, it was y equals mx plus b. So we're just going to put this in. The m we found here was 3 over 5. And the slope was right here, or excuse me, the y-intercept is 4, which is my b. Okay. Next one, writing the equations of vertical and horizontal lines for a given point. Okay, so vertical and horizontal lines, the thing that they have, the unique thing about vertical and horizontal lines is a vertical line, obviously, is straight up and down. I could make that a little prettier. But straight up and down, here we go. There we go. Straight up and down, and horizontal lines go like this. Okay, so this is going to be my little silly method so you guys can help remember what the slope of a vertical and a horizontal line is. So the slope, I picture this, I'm going to just kind of do a little rudimentary drawing, and hopefully you'll know what this is by the time I'm finished. Okay, it's not, there we go, maybe. Oh, okay, they've got like a broken foot or something. There we go. Anyway, okay, so we'll put some, how about Nike tennis shoes on so you can see. Here we go. All right, so hopefully you see this is a treadmill. Now, treadmills, if you've ever stepped on a treadmill, you always step on it and you have a slope of 0. When you get on that treadmill, the slope is 0. That's no slope. You don't have any slope here at all. And so we say I'm going 0 over any number. 0 over any number is 0, and that means that this is going to be a horizontal line. And a horizontal line, if I draw, let's go ahead and just kind of draw my x and y axis. If you notice, the horizontal line always goes through the y-axis, if you see that. And so my equation is going to be a y equals. And I know it's kind of weird because it's a horizontal line, but it goes through the y-axis, and it's whatever point this is. So for instance, if this point here, like in our example, this point here is at -8, or this is ours is not definitely not negative. So let's just, since ours is different, let's go make ours +8. So this would be y equals 8 would be this equation. Okay, now let's look at the vertical line. The vertical line, here's my little example. Here you're hiking one day, and unfortunately, you trip. And what are you going to yell if you trip and you're falling down? That's not good. So we're going to yell, no, because you don't want to fall down. And it's a number because it's how many I'm falling up. Because remember, the vertical is up and down, and I'm falling from this height at, let's just make it a safe fall. It's still not fun. 20 feet, which is still not a good fall. And let's put water here so it's not too bad. And this is at 0 feet, okay? So I'm falling 20 feet. That's my vertical fall. My number, I fell 20 feet over what? Which way did I go, left and right? Nothing, 0. That spells no. This we consider no slope, we call it, or undefined slope. So there will be no m, no m in this equation because it doesn't even exist. So because remember, the m is right before the x, and in this case it doesn't exist at all. So let's go ahead and draw our x and y axis with this. And so here's boom, boom here. Okay, and let's go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say that's at 5. So what does this always go through? It's going through the x-axis. So at all times, x is going to equal 5. So vertical lines, it's always x equals something. Horizontal lines, it's always y equals something. All right, so in this answer, you obviously can see what are the vertical and horizontal lines through -5 and -8. Remember, the vertical line is always going up and down through the x-axis at -5. That's why it's the red one is x equals -5. And the horizontal line is going through the y-axis. And it's always y equals -8, y equals -8, y equals -8. And you can see that, let me do one little explanation here for you. Hope it's helping you, not hurting you. If you notice here, I'll do on the red, let's just choose a random point. This is -5, comma, -3. This is, let's do another point, -5, comma, 2. This is -5, comma, 7, etc., etc., etc. But what do you notice about x? Hope you should notice that x is always -5 on that line. That's why it's x equals -5. Similarly speaking, let's grab this one. This is going to be 1, comma, -8. This is going to be 7, comma, -8. We could keep doing this, but you see, what do we know about y on this line? Y is always equal to -8. That's why that equation is y equals -8, because it's always -8. Okay. Graphing a line through a given point with a given slope. Okay, this one here, you get the point and you get the slope. Simple, you're just going to go ahead and plot the point and then count the slope. So this one says graph the line with a slope 2 passing through the point -4, 4. It does it very nicely here, but I'm just going to go ahead and draw it out step by step just in case you're having issues. If you're not, just fast forward through this particular topic. All right, so I go -4, 3, 4, -4, +4, 1, 2, 3, 4, +4, put my point. Step 1. Then the slope is 2, but I don't have a denominator, so I'm just going to put it over 1 because 2 divided by 1 is 2, so it's the same thing. So what you do is from your point, you go up 2 to the right 1. So you're going to go up 2 to the right 1, and that's your point, and then connect your dots and put arrows on both sides. On your computer program you don't, but if you're hand drawing it, I would put arrows on both sides because that means that this goes forever. It doesn't stop on one side or the other. Okay, graphing a line giving x and y intercepts. X and y intercepts. Graph a line whose y-intercept is 5 and x-intercept is 2. Just simple here. X-intercept is 2. Just plot it right here on the x-axis at 2. Y-intercept is 5. Plot it right here where 5 is. I'll just circle and then connect the dots. Graphing a vertical and horizontal line. We've talked about that just a second ago, so let's just kind of see if there's anything. Graph it. You definitely can handle this, but let's go ahead and try it. Graph the line at y equals -5. So what does that mean? That means y is always -5. So you go to the y-axis and you put a dot at -5, -5, -5. Just keep putting dots there, -5, -5. And you can see it's going to be a horizontal line because it goes through -5, -5, -5, and y never changes. Okay, finding x and y intercepts of a line given the equation. So find the y-intercept and x-intercept of this line. All right, so basically, let's talk about what that means. What is an x-intercept? What is a y-intercept? What does that mean? Well, an x-intercept, that literally means, as we just saw, where this line, let me just make up a fake line here. That's my x-intercept. It's where the line crosses the x-axis, crosses the x-axis. Okay, tell me what else we know about a line that crosses the x-axis. If this here, let's just kind of put these dots. This would be 0. Anything on the x-axis is 0. So the x-axis here, if this is, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. So this here would be 3, 0. So it's where y is equal to 0. So how do I find the x-intercept from this here? Well, I just would do 7x minus 5. What did I say y is? It's 0, equals 12. And you can see from this solution, that's exactly, actually, I apologize. They're finding the y-intercept. I'm finding the x-intercept here, which they do on the next part. But you're just going to go ahead and find 7x equals 12, because of course this is 0. Divided by 7, x is equal to 12 over 7. So your x-intercept is 12 over 7, comma 0. Now you're going to do the same thing for the y-axis, or the y-intercept. The y-intercept, what's the deal with the y-intercept? This here is a y-intercept. That would be down, let's say, for ours, particularly this one, it's going to be 0, comma, negative 2. And what does that mean? Oh, my x is 0. So that's what we did here, is we said, oh, let's set x equal to 0, plug it in, and find out what y equals. So for your x-intercept, just plug in y equals 0. For your y-intercept, just plug in x equals 0. And then, of course, solve for the variable. Okay, writing an equation of a line and its slope in the y-intercept. Okay, so for this in slope-intercept form, so slope-intercept form, it shows you we have y equals mx plus b, and it gives me a y-intercept, it gives me slope. So this is very simple. You're just going to literally, my slope is 3 over 5, boom, plug it in. My y-intercept is 3, plug it in, and that is it. Oh, I lost it a little bit. Let me go find it. Okay, table for a linear equation. Okay, so fill in this table. So all you have to do to fill in the table is just plug in the value into your equation and then solve. So I have x negative 5, so I'm going to put in negative 5 in for my x and solve the equation. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how this goes out here. So if you put negative 5 into your equation, you're going to get y equals 6 times negative 5 minus 2, which is negative 32. You can solve that, and then that's how we get our equation. Similarly speaking, each value of x plugs into your equation, and then you just solve. Make sure you multiply before you subtract, because this multiplication is before subtraction and addition with order of operations. Okay, identifying solutions to linear equations in 2 variables. For each ordered pair, determine if it's a solution to x equals 8. Okay, so what you need to do to see here is I say, okay, the first ordered pair we're given is negative 7, 8, and we're going to say, hey, is this a solution? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to put this in, and you're going to plug it in directly to my x equals 8 equation, and you say, okay, well, put x, I know it's so simple for this one, it seems very confusing, but literally all we're doing is plugging our x's, which is negative 7 for the first one, and negative 7 doesn't equal 8, so no. Well, the next one's 9, so it's not going to be. Next one's negative 4, it's not going to be. Well, the last one, that's the only one it can be, because 8 is equal to 8, that's it. So that one was a little bit more, it was so straightforward, it was almost confusing. All right, classify slopes given graphs of lines. So for this one, all you have to do is determine if they're positive, negative, 0, or undefined. Remember what we talked about already? Undefined is the no with the poor guy falling off the cliff. It's undefined. So line 1 is undefined. Line 2, that looks like that treadmill. When we first step on, you don't have the slope yet on it, so that's a 0 slope. Number 3, that's going downward. If that's your money in your bank account, you're not too happy. It's negative. Versus number 4, that's a positive slope. You like that if that's your bank account. So here we go. Positive, negative, 0, and undefined slope. Remember, undefined is also, you'll hear people call it no slope. So be careful. 0 doesn't mean no slope. 0 slope means 0 slope. No slope means undefined slope in math. It's kind of weird because in the English language it's seen as something different. I mean, the words are sometimes interchangeable, but in math they're not. Okay, given graphing a linear equation in the form of y equals mx. Now notice there's no b because the b is just 0. That's all it means. In mx, that's it. So you're just going to start right there in the at the origin. So your b is just going to be right there at the origin. So you can see this first x here at the center is 0, 0. And then you can see, okay, well, what is the slope? The slope is negative 3x, so that means negative 3 over 1. So down 1, 2, 3 from the origin to the right 1. Graphing a line given its equation in slope-intercept form. So for this now, it's in slope-intercept form. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to start with I think, honestly, I don't like how they're doing this here. I'm just going to jump directly to the lines. Y equals negative 2x minus 4. So I'm going to show you how it's done. Okay? So let me just kind of do this. So it's, remember it's y equals negative 2x minus 4. Okay, so step 1, of course, the way we've been doing this the whole time is that's my b, so that's my y-intercept right there. Then this here's my slope. And remember, we can put it over 1 because negative 2 divided by 1 is just negative 2. And the top one is my up and down, and the bottom is my left and right. If it's positive, it goes up. If it's negative, it goes down. If it's negative, it goes left. If it's positive, it goes to the right. So I'm going to say this is going to be negative 2 minus 4. Oh, you know what? I must be wrong. This must be positive 2. It's got to be. I apologize. That's got to be because that's... No, it is not. No. It is right. Boy, I mixed it up. Sorry, I should have looked at how I did this because this is obviously a negative slope, so it has to be negative. Okay, it cut off part of the line here for you. So this means I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1. And actually, this is going to show you a new lesson as well. So down 2, 1, 2 to the right 1, but you see I've lost my line. And we would go ahead and just connect it, and it's going to be this line. There we go. All right, but look, I could go up 2, boom, boom, to the left 1. So up 2 to the left 1 is going to be the same thing, isn't it? Up 2 to the left 1 is the same thing as down 2 to the right 1. Because from this spot, what am I really doing? Down 2 to the right 1. So that's the same thing. So easiest way, remember, step 1, you're going to plot B. Step 2, from B, you're going to count your slope. And that's it. All right. Okay, so graph the line. So for this one, same thing. Start here, negative 2, graph negative 2. I'll graph it for you. Just one more help. Negative 2, remember that's my B, just like what I just talked about. So plot your B and then count your slope. Your slope is up 2 to the right 3, up 1, 2, to the right 1, 2, 3, and then connect the dots. I put arrows on both sides, indicating that it doesn't stop in either way. Finding x and y-intercepts given the graph on a line grid. So find the y-intercepts and x-intercept of the line below, click none. All you have to do is simply look. Y-intercept is where it goes through the y-axis at negative 2, x-intercept where it goes through the x-axis at negative 1. And that's it. Finding slopes of horizontal and vertical lines. Well, we already know what the slope of a horizontal and vertical line is. So this one here, it doesn't tell you it's a horizontal and vertical line. It's just going to become obvious to you as you find the slope. So the equation here to find the slope is y2 minus y1 minus x2 over x2 minus x1. Let me just do a quick explanation kind of what that means because it's not a difficult equation. It just sometimes becomes difficult the way it's explained. Hold on, let's see. We're having... All right, hold on. Okay. Okay, so when I have my points, this point here, I'm just going to call this point 1, and this point here, I'm going to call point 2. And that's x and y, and that's x and y. Oh, but since this is point 1, we'll just call this x1, y1. And this point 2, we're going to call that x2, y2. So then when I find the slope, I see, oh, okay, y2. So y2 is this one here. That's y2. Actually, let me just put them out just so. x1 is going to be 3. x2 is going to be also 3. y1 is going to be 5. And y2 is going to be -1. So I'm going to say my slope, remember, is going to use this equation, y2 minus y1, so -1 minus 5 over x2 minus x1, 3 minus 3. So it doesn't matter what's on top because the bottom is 0. And so what did I tell you? A number over 0 yells, no, no slope is my undefined. That's the guy falling off the cliff, and he doesn't want to fall off the cliff. Versus this guy here, let's do that again. Point 1, point 2, so my x1 for this one is -5. My x2 for this one is 6. y1 for this one is 2. y2 for this one is also 2. So we're going to do our slope of this one here, y2 minus y1, 2 minus 2 over 6 minus -5. Again, it doesn't matter what's on the denominator now because what's 2 minus 2 is 0. And 0 over any number doesn't matter. It's going to be 6 plus 5 is 11, but it doesn't matter because it's 0 over any number, which spells on, which means we can do, which is 0, my treadmill. 0 slope, so we know it looks like this. So this one looks like this, and this one looks like this. And we know that since we always have my, on the first one, since we have my x is always 3, we know that this is literally x equals 3. And this one here, my y is always equal to 2, so it's y equals 2. All right. Hope this is helping you. Okay, finding the slope given on the graph, a line on a graph on a, wow, I can't speak. Finding slope given the graph of a line on a grid. Okay. We've done this a couple times. All we're going to do is just count this. So from one of the lines, one of the points, you're going to count. Up and down is the numerator, and left and right is your denominator. So you can count from either one. It doesn't really matter as long as you are consistent. So this one started in the bottom 1 and went to the right 5 and up 5. And so what that means is it's 5 over 5. The slope is equal to 1. Find the y-intercept and the slope of the line. So the y-intercept is, because it's already in this form, we want to have it in y equals mx plus b. So we're just going to switch the two so you can have them, you see, as -2x plus -7 or -2x minus 7. So then it makes it really, really obvious which one's my slope and which one's my y-intercept. The slope is always the number that's multiplied by the x, and the y-intercept is always the extra number that has no variable attached to it. Finding the slope and y-intercept of a line given its equation, y equals mx plus b. So this one is already in y equals mx plus b form, so you just simply take the number that is in front of x. But if there's no number in front of x, we can assume there's a placeholder of 1, because 1 times x is equal to x. So there's nothing in front of x, the slope is 1. And then plus 7, which would mean b would be 7, because that is my y-intercept. All right, finding the slope and y-intercept of the line given its equation, y equals mx plus b. Same thing here. For this one, the slope is -1 and the y-intercept is 3. Okay, this is in finding the slope and y-intercept of the equation in the form ax plus by equals c. This is called standard form. And so basically what it wants you to do is change this to y equals mx plus b form, which is called slope-intercept form, so that you can easily pull out the slope and the y-intercept. So it's going to simply, I'm going to just talk you through these steps since it's already done so nicely. So you have 6x plus 3y equals 3. So we need to isolate our variable and get y all alone. So the first way to do that is anything that is added or subtracted to the variable with y, you need to add or subtract it. Don't mess with that 3 first. First of all, get rid of anything that's connected to the y. So we're going to subtract 6x from both sides. And we get 3y equals -6x plus 3. Now that y is isolated, now I can say, hey, 3y equals -6x plus 3, which is 1y equal. Similar to say 3 candy bars is equal to 12 calories. How much is 1 candy bar equal? Obviously, you're going to do 12 divided by 4. Same concepts. So divide by 3, and you get, simplify each one, and you end up with y equals -2x plus 1. Where -2 is your slope and 1 is your y-intercept. Write an equation in slope-intercept form from the given slope and point. The slope is -8.3. Excuse me, the slope is 5/4 and the point is -8.3. Okay, so for this, you have the slope, and now you have a point that it goes through. So we're going to do something called point slope form, and then we're going to put it into slope intercept form. So this here at the equation is going to be, well, oh, actually, you know what? They did a different method. I'm going to show you the method. Well, I'm going to show you this method. And if you like my method, do my method. If you want their method, just follow theirs. So this is what they gave you. It says I have my point at 8, -3, and then I have my slope as -5/2. Okay, so there's an equation called point slope form where this here is your point, is your x1 and y1. This is point number 1, kind of we did before, and that's my slope. So all I would do is put my points in here. So I'm going to put -3 into here, and I'm going to put 8 into here. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of math. I get y plus 3 is equal to, I'm going to distribute this here, so -5/2x, and then this is going to be -5/2 times -8. I'm going to put that over 1 just because it becomes a little bit easier to go ahead and solve. So let's see, I'm just going to cross this out and make this a -4, -8 divided by 2. And so I have -4 times -5, so I have y plus 3 equals -5/2x. And I have -5 times -4 is +20. And I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I get y equals -5/2x plus 17. And this here is my answer, where this is my slope, and this is my y-intercept. So let me go over the steps again. The first step that I did is I labeled my point x1 and y1, and my slope -5/2. The second step is I'm using this equation. This is called point slope, this is called, yes, point slope form, because I have a point and I have a slope. The third step here is I plugged in these 3 values. I plugged in my point and my slope. The fourth step is I just solved for y to the y equals mx plus b form. and that's it. As I mentioned, the publisher did it a different way, and you are welcome to do it a different way. Whichever way feels more comfortable for you, you can do. Okay, to identify parallel and perpendicular lines from equations, parallel lines, same slope. Perpendicular lines, they're called negative reciprocal slopes. Or you could say, and let me explain why. All right, so parallel lines, let me just show you. The reason parallel lines have the same slope, because look at these guys. If this slope was, I don't know, up 2/7, well, this slope, it has to be 2/7 because we don't want them to cross. Think about a train, railroad tracks, you never want them to cross. So those are parallel. Parallel, they have the same slope. However, perpendicular lines come to a 90-degree angle. And this slope, if this slope is, let's say, 3/5, then this slope is going to be -5/3. So you're going to flip them and make them, so if one slope is A/B, the slope that's perpendicular to it is going to be -B/A. That is called the negative reciprocal. Sometimes people call them the opposite reciprocal because one's positive and one's negative, always. So, because if you notice, what is A/B times -B/A? Well, we can cancel, and we end up with -1. So when we multiply the slopes of perpendicular lines, so let's try this, 3/5 times -5/3, cancel, we get left with that -1. So we have -1. And when we have -1, what that means is it's perpendicular. And so that's one way you can test it. So perpendicular slopes, the slope of a line is -1 times the perpendicular slope. With parallel slopes, they're the same. So having said that, let's go ahead and look at the current problem. It says line 1 is 6x plus 3y equals 3. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. And you want, so the first step is we put in slope-intercept form. Slope's -2, and we've got line 2, slope's 2, and line 3 is -2. So tell me, line 1 is -2. The slopes is all we need to determine if it's parallel or perpendicular. We look at the slopes, and that's it. So that's what we're doing to determine it. But now when we look, line 1 and line 3 are the same slope, so therefore they're parallel. But line 2 is neither parallel nor perpendicular because it is not. If it was perpendicular, it would have to be 1/2 because you'd have to flip it and make it negative. Remember, you multiply the slopes, and if it equals -1, then those are perpendicular. All right. Maria is a software salesman. Her base salary is $1,900. She makes $40 for every copy of English is Fun she sells. Let P represent her total pay in dollars. Let N represent the number of copies of English is Fun she sells. Write an equation relating P to N. Then use this equation to find her total pay. She sells 23 copies to English is Fun. All right, so first of all, it's showing specific cases. For the explanation, we say, all right, so basically she's making $1,900 base plus $40 times each one she's selling. So therefore, this is how we come up with this equation of P, which is profit, equals 1,900 plus 40N, N being the number of copies. So to find out how much she earns if she gets 23 copies, we just multiply that by 23. All right. Okay, interpreting the parameters of linear function models in a real-world situation. Okay, Christine is driving to Atlanta. Let y represent her distance in Atlanta in miles, x driving in hours. Suppose that x and y are related by this equation. So, answer the questions below. What is the change in Christine's distance from Atlanta for each hour she drives? Okay, that's the slope. And so when we look at that, we see, oh, negative 60 is the slope. So what that means is she's getting 60 miles further away from Atlanta. So that's a negative slope. It's a decrease. And then finally, it says, what is Christine's distance from Atlanta when she began the drive? Well, when she began the drive, she was 325 miles away from Atlanta. She's going towards Atlanta, so it's going to be the 60 miles closer for every hour she drives. So decreasing her distance from Atlanta. Okay, finding slopes of lines parallel and perpendicular to a line and given in slope-intercept form. So if I ask you what's the line parallel to this line, the slope of a line, you just look at this. Remember, slope parallel means same slope. What is the slope for y equals 8x minus 5? 8. Yes. So what is this line? What is the slope of a line parallel to y equals 8x minus 5? Also 8. Okay, now perpendicular. So if I ask you, what is the, so for this is the slope is 8. For perpendicular, the slope is 8, but what did I tell you to do? Remember, we're going to flip it. If the slope is 8, then the perpendicular slope is going to flip it and make it negative. Well, we're going to put it over 1, so we remind ourselves when we flip it, it's going to be negative 1 over 8. More perpendicular and parallel, now in standard form. So all you have to do for this one is, first of all, put it into the y equals mx plus b form, and then you're able to evaluate it. So let's go ahead and I'll help you with this. So step 1, we're going to put it into y equals mx plus b form. So this here, the reason we like this form so much is because then we can easily grab out the slope. So I have x minus 8y equals negative 4. So I'm going to do negative x, subtract x, so I get negative 8y equals minus x minus 4 divided by negative 8. Y equals x over 8 plus 1/2. Okay, the only thing I care about here is my slope, and so I can write that as 1 over 8x, where this here is my slope. So my slope for this is 1 over 8. So for perpendicular, what do? Flip it and make it negative. And if it's negative, you make it positive. So flip it in the opposite sign. Parallel is just 1 over 8. So that's perpendicular and that's parallel. I think there's one more after this, but last one on this set. Consider the line y equals 7 over 3x plus 2. Find the equation that's parallel and passes through this point. Ooh, now we have to do 2 steps, and this one's perpendicular. So first of all, we're going to, our first step, it says parallel. What does parallel mean? Parallel means same slope. So I got to find what this slope is. This slope is 7 over 3. So I'm looking for one that's 7 over 3. And what about perpendicular? Flip it and make it negative. Or if it's negative, make it positive, opposite. Now we're going to go through here. Remember what we did before, x1, y1? So I'm using this equation the way I taught you in the previous segment. Remember, the publisher does it a little bit differently than I do, but if what I'm going to do is just go ahead and take my y1, my m, and my x1. Actually, let me just, there you go. There you go. So y minus y1 is 3 equals m, 7 over 3. X minus x1 is negative 7. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute. Y minus 3 equals 7 over 3x plus 49 over 3. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. It gets a little messy. So 49 over 3 is going to be plus, let's just go ahead and do that over there. 49 over 3 plus 3. I'm going to change the denominator. This one I'm not changing, but this is going to change to 9 over 3. Because isn't 9 divided by 3 just 3? But I need the same denominators because it's saying I have 49 thirds, and now I need 9 thirds, and so that's going to be equal to 58 thirds. So that's my equation. You're going to do the same exact thing to this equation, except the only thing that's going to change is if literally I'm going to, okay, that's with my other, oh, look at me, I'm getting all, get out of there, I don't want that. Okay. I was just going to copy it and paste it, but let's do this. So we're just basically, what's going to happen is instead of this being 7 over 3, it's going to be negative 3 over 7. So we're going to do the same thing. Y minus 3 equals negative 3 over 7, x plus 7. And this one's actually a lot easier because the 7s cancel out nicely for me. Y minus 3 equals negative 3 over 7, x minus 3 over 7 times 7. Cancel nicely, and I get y minus 3 equals negative 3 over 7x minus 3. And then add 3 to both sides. Oh, this is really nice. Y equals negative 3 over 7x plus 0. So that goes through the origin. Okay, and that's how you do it. I believe there's one more. If I've skipped over anything, let me know, please. This one here. Writing the equation of a line through 2 given points. So for this one, I'm going to use, it does a little bit differently than I'm going to do. So you can follow along here, or you can follow along the way I do it. It's similar, but okay. First step here is that you're going to find the slope. So that's what the publisher does as well. But let's go ahead and y minus over x2 minus x1. Okay, so remember this point here, I'm just saying, hey, this is going to be 0.1 and this is going to be 0.2. It doesn't matter which one's 0.1 and which one's 0.2, you just have to choose. So therefore, my x1 is going to be this here, negative 2. And my x2 is going to be 4. My y1 is going to be 2. And my y2 is going to be 4. So let's go ahead and plug this into the equation. I get 4 minus 2 over 4 minus negative 2. So those are going to be 4 minus 2 is 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. So it's 1/3 is my slope. Okay, so that's first step. Second step is we're going to plug in. Now, honestly, if this goes through a nice, easy spot on the y-axis, I would put it directly into y equals mx plus b and just plug, hey, that one goes in there, and I already found my slope. But we know it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 3, closer to 3 than 2, but we don't know exact. So we have to actually do the algebra. So we're going to use this equation, y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Remember, this is called point slope form. Publisher doesn't show you this, but I think it's easy to use, so that's why I'm showing you. Point slope form, so you're going to then plug in y1 and x1. And then you're going to plug in your slope. It doesn't matter which point you use because it's the line that contains both points, but you just have to use one of them. Since I have x1, y1, we will just go ahead and use x1 and y1. So y minus 2 equals slope is 1/3 x minus negative 2. Those turn to be positive. Y minus 2 equals 1/3 x, distribute, plus 2/3, distribute, plus 2, plus 2. So I have to add 2/3 plus 2. I'm going to change the denominator for the bottom one. And so that's times 3 times 3, 6 over 3. So 2 over 1 is the same as 6 over 3, and that's going to be 8/3. So y equals 1/3 x plus 8/3. So we knew it's going to be a little less than 3. So that is consistent. Now this is what I was just saying, just one more little gem of knowledge for you. If I chose to use this here at 4, 4, this point instead, I would come up with the same equation. In fact, you don't believe me? Hey, let's go ahead and solve it. I know you believe me. I'm sure you do. But just for fun, let's do it. So if I did y minus 4 equals 1/3 x minus 4, because instead of using negative 2, 2, I'm using 4, 4. Let's go ahead and solve it. Y minus 4 equals 1/3 x minus 4/3. Add 4 to both sides. And so now I have negative 4 over 3 plus 4 over 1. So that's negative 4/3. And I'm going to multiply everything by 3, which is 12 over 3. And that gets out to be 8/3. And there we have it. Y equals 1/3 x plus 8/3, which, ladies and gentlemen, as you see, is the same one that we just found. So it does not matter in this equation if you use 0.1 or 0.2, because the whole idea is I am finding the equation of the line that goes through both points. So it should come up with the same answer. And I just wanted to show you that, yes, indeed it does. My wonderful students, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you have any other questions, I am more than happy to help you. Please let me know. Send me an email, and I can send you a video or set up a FaceTime chat through video chatting anytime you need. Okay, I appreciate it. We'll schedule and let me know if you need anything else. All right, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.